Please help me reach 1000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read every of them. Thank you.
She laughed. Not the joyful sound I fell in love with, but a light, dismissive chuckle that made my soul feel small. That laugh was the scalpel. Her words, "I'm not cutting off my ex just because you're insecure," were the incision. And my quiet okay was the moment I started stitching myself shut, away from her. 3 years. That's how long I shared my life with Sarah. Long enough for her lavender shampoo to become the default scent of our bathroom. Long enough that she knew I needed exactly 2 sugars in my tea. Not 1, not 3. She was my anchor. When my father passed, she was the solid ground beneath my feet in those sterile, echoing hospital halls. She held my hand at the funeral, her whisper a warm promise in my ear. "You are my home." I built my entire world on the truth of that sentence. But even the strongest foundations can develop hairline fractures. It started subtly, a text message lighting up her phone at 11 p.m., followed by that soft, private giggle. When I'd glance over, she'd tilt the screen away. "It's just Daniel," she'd say, as if that explained everything. "He's just a friend." My questions, my unease, were always met with the same diagnosis. "You're being controlling," or "you have trust issues." She was so convincing that I started to believe her. I thought the problem was my own broken compass, not her shifting north. The night of the Tupperware was the night the fracture became a chasm. There I was, sitting at our dinner table, pushing around cold pasta on my plate. She was humming, dancing slightly as she packed a meal into the very container I'd bought for our weekly meal prep. "Daniel's having a rough time with his breakup," she explained, not meeting my eyes. The intimacy of the act, cooking, packing food, felt like a violation of our shared space. She leaned in, brushed a perfume kiss on my cheek, and left. The scent was Chanel Mademoiselle. It used to be our scent. That night, it smelled like a lie. The morning after the Tupperware incident, I woke up not with a broken heart, but with a terrifying, ice-cold clarity. The fog of doubt had lifted, leaving behind a stark landscape of truth. I saw our relationship for what it was. A beautifully decorated stage where I was the only one who didn't know the script was about to end. That's when the email came. A headhunter offering a leadership role in Singapore. 6 figures. A new life in a city-state known for its order and efficiency. A world away from the emotional chaos of my own home. I accepted on the spot during that phone call, standing in my pajamas in the kitchen that still smelled of the dinner she'd packed for him. I became a ghost in my own life. I told Sarah I'd been laid off. The flash of relief in her eyes was so quick, so expertly masked by a veneer of sympathy, but I saw it. It was the final confirmation. I let her play the devoted partner, comforting her unemployed boyfriend. I'd nod along as she talked about us, all while secretly meeting with my landlord in a quiet kopitiam near our flat, transferring the lease solely to my name over cups of thick, dark coffee. I moved my savings, closed our joint account, all while sitting next to her on the couch as she scrolled through her phone, smiling at memes I knew were from Daniel. My observation became my obsession. I saw his name pop up more on her Instagram. A photo of them in a group at Gardens by the Bay, his arm casually slung over her shoulder. A story of them at a hawker center captioned, "Ride or die for these chili crab fries." I screenshotted it all, not with rage, but with a detached focus of an archivist. Revenge, for me, wasn't about passion. It was about precision. It was about building a case so airtight that, when I finally left, the silence would be deafening. I started a countdown on my phone. 42 days until my flight from Changi Airport. With 2 weeks left until my one-way ticket to Changi, I decided it was time to stop observing and start building my final proof. I needed to hear it from the source. I needed to remove any lingering doubt, any possibility that I was the monster she was painting me to be. So, I invited Daniel over. I texted him, my thumbs cold and steady on the screen. "Hey man, want to surprise Sarah for her birthday. Need your help. Can you come over? He arrived looking nervous, shifting his weight at our doorway like a guilty schoolboy. I played the part perfectly, the slightly clueless but well-meaning boyfriend. I offered him a beer, the same local brand we'd all drunk together in happier times. We sat in the living room, the same room where Sarah had packed his dinner, and I felt a surreal calmness settle over me. My phone was on the coffee table, seemingly idle, but its recorder was on, a silent witness. I just want to make her happy, I said, leaning forward with feigned earnestness. I know you two are close. I thought maybe you'd have some ideas, something personal. He relaxed, buying into the charade. Yeah, of course. She's special. There was a weight to his words, an intimacy that felt like a violation in my own home. I know things have been a bit rocky with us, I continued, waving a hand dismissively. She's told me she gets a lot of support from you. I appreciate that. Really, that's all it took. A little validation, a little permission. The floodgates opened. He didn't outright confess to an affair, but he painted a picture with his hesitant words and guilty pauses. He talked about their deep connection, how they'd crossed a line a few times, when they were both emotional. She loves you, mate. She really does, he said, as if that made it better. But she's confused. You know how it is. I nodded, my face a mask of grim understanding. I know how it is. And I did. I knew exactly how it was. The final piece of the puzzle slid into place with a quiet, devastating click. I thanked him for his honesty, this man who had been eating my food and comforting my girlfriend. We shook hands at the door, a grotesque pantomime of male bonding. He left thinking we had reached some sort of understanding, that he was the noble confidant in a complicated love story. He had no idea he had just handed me the scalpel I would use to perform the final clean cut. The night before my flight, Sarah cooked. She lit candles, opened a bottle of expensive red wine, and put on the playlist we'd made for our first anniversary. The air was thick with the smell of steak and unspoken apologies. She wore the silk dress I loved. It was a perfect stage for a reconciliation, and for a moment, watching the candlelight dance in her eyes, I felt a phantom pain for the US that could have been. We've been so distant lately, she said, her voice soft as she reached for my hand across the table. I miss us. I miss you. Her hand was warm, familiar. The words were the right ones, the ones I'd craved for months. I miss us too, I said, and for a heartbeat, I almost let myself believe the lie. I almost let the carefully constructed walls around my heart crumble. The performance was that good. Then, as we were clearing the plates, she shattered the illusion with a casualness of someone swatting a fly. Oh, by the way, she started, her back to me as she rinsed a wine glass. Do you mind if I check in on Daniel tomorrow? He's been really down, and you know how kind he is. He just needs a friend. There it was, the final, perfect punchline. In the ruins of our romantic dinner, surrounded by the ghosts of our relationship, her first thought was of him. The script hadn't changed. I didn't even have to prompt her. She provided the closing argument for my case all by herself. I looked at her, at the innocent tilt of her head, and I knew with absolute certainty that she would never see it. She would never understand the betrayal packed into that simple question. She lived in a world where her truth was the only one that mattered. Of course, I said, my voice a calm, flat lake. He's just a friend. She laughed, that same light, airy, dismissive laugh from weeks ago. It didn't hurt anymore. It was just a sound, the starter's pistol for my final escape. That laugh was the last thread holding me there. I cut it without a second thought. The next morning I left for Changi Airport before the sun rose. The city was still asleep, a silent, blue-gray landscape. I moved through the quiet apartment like a ghost, my single suitcase by the door. I didn't leave a note. What words could possibly suffice? The empty space in our wardrobe where my clothes used to be, the void on my side of the bathroom counter, that was my message. It was a silence more eloquent than any screaming match could ever be. As the taxi pulled away, I didn't look back at the building. I was already gone. My new life in Singapore began with silence. Not the heavy, oppressive silence of my old apartment, but a clean, peaceful one. My office was on a high floor, offering a breathtaking view of Marina Bay Sands and the endless sea. The city's efficiency, its relentless forward momentum, was a balm to my soul. Here, I wasn't the insecure boyfriend. I was the man with a new nameplate on his desk, building a future on his own terms. The past felt like a distant, feverish dream, but the ghost tried to call. 53 times that first day. My phone lit up like a frantic heartbeat on the hotel nightstand. Sarah's name flashed, over and over, a desperate Morse code from a life I had incinerated. I let it ring. I was in a meeting about market analytics, sipping kopi while my old world burned without me. 2 days later, a text buzzed through. Why is Daniel avoiding me? What did you say to him? The audacity of that question, the sheer, unself-aware focus on him, even now, was almost impressive. It confirmed everything. I didn't reply to her, but I had a different message to send. The recording of my conversation with Daniel was a quiet, digital grenade. With a few clicks, I forwarded it to an email address I discreetly found. The girlfriend Daniel had so conveniently forgotten to mention during his confession. I didn't add a message. The truth, in his own stammering, guilty voice, was more than enough. I didn't need to check the news to know the explosion happened. The chain reaction was inevitable. His girlfriend, rightly furious, didn't just confront him. She took the nuclear option. She sent the recording to Daniel's entire family, his colleagues, and, of course, directly to Sarah's workplace. Sarah worked in public relations, her entire career built on a facade of trustworthiness and a wholesome image. The scandal was kryptonite. Screenshots of their flirty DMs surfaced. Mutual friends, who had once defended her, suddenly remembered all the coincidences they'd overlooked. The house of cards she and Daniel had built came tumbling down, burying them both. I heard through a muted grapevine that she was let go from her job. Quietly, of course. They always do it quietly. Weeks later, settled into my new apartment with a view of the Singapore skyline, her final message arrived. I wish you'd just talk to me. I stared at the words, each one a perfect monument to her delusion. She had rewritten history already, casting herself as the wrong party who was denied a conversation. I felt no anger, no satisfaction, just a profound, settling finality. I had talked to her. I had asked for respect, for boundaries, for honesty. She had laughed, so I had given her the only thing left to give, the consequences. I deleted the message, not with rage, but with the same clean indifference with which I had left our home. Sometimes revenge isn't about screaming matches or dramatic confrontations. Sometimes it's a new nameplate on a polished desk. It's the skyline of a new city outside your window. It's the peaceful silence where a ringing phone used to be. She thought I wanted her to hurt like I did, but I didn't. I wanted her to live with the echo of every okay she'd dismissed, and to realize far too late that it wasn't insecurity she had heard. It was the quiet, steady sound of me walking away.